During my long and intimate acquaintance with Mr. Sherlock Holmes, I had never heard him refer to his relations, and hardly ever to his own early life. This reticence upon his part had increased the somewhat inhuman effect which he produced upon me, until sometimes I found myself regarding him as an isolated phenomenon, a brain without a heart. I had come to believe that he was an orphan with no relatives living, but one day, to my very great surprise, he began to talk to me about his brother. The point under discussion was how far any singular gift in an individual was due to his ancestry, and how far to his own early training.
In your own case, from all that you have told me, it seems obvious that your faculty observation and your peculiar facility for deduction are due to your own systematic training.
To some extent. My ancestors were country squires, but my turn that way is in my veins, and may have come with my grandmother, who was the sister of Vernet, the French artist.
But how do you know that it is hereditary?
Because my brother Mycroft possesses it in a larger degree than I do.
This was news to me indeed. If there were another man with such singular powers in England, how was it that neither police nor public had heard of him?
My dear Watson, I cannot agree with those who rank modesty among the virtues. To the logician all things should be seen exactly as they are. When I say, therefore, that Mycroft has better powers of observation than I, you may take it that I am speaking the exact and literal truth.
Is he your junior?
7 years my senior.
Oh, comes it that he is unknown?
Oh, he is very well known in his own circle.
Where then?
Well, in the Diogenes Club, for example.
I had never heard of the institution, and my face must have proclaimed as much.
The Diogenes Club is the queerest club in London, and Mycroft one of the queerest men. He's always there from 5:15 to 20 to 8. It's 6 now, so if you care for a stroll this beautiful evening, I shall be very happy to introduce you to 2 curiosities.
5 minutes later we were in the street, walking towards Regent's Circus.
If the art of the detective began and ended in reasoning from an armchair, my brother would be the greatest criminal agent that ever lived. But he has no ambition and no energy. Again and again I have taken a problem to him, and have received an explanation which has afterwards proved to be the correct one. He has an extraordinary faculty for figures, and audits the books in some of the government departments. From year's end to year's end he takes no other exercise, and is seen nowhere else, except only in the Diogenes Club, which is just opposite his rooms. Save in the stranger's room, no talking is, under any circumstances, allowed, and 3 offenses render the talker liable to expulsion.
Sherlock Holmes stopped at a door some little distance from the Carlton, and, cautioning me not to speak, he led the way into the hall. Through the glass paneling I caught a glimpse of a large and luxurious room, in which a considerable number of men were sitting about and reading papers, each in his own little nook. Holmes showed me into a small chamber which looked out into Pall Mall, and then, leaving me for a minute, he came back with a companion whom I knew could only be his brother. Mycroft Holmes was a much larger and stouter man than Sherlock. His body was absolutely corpulent, but his face, though massive, had preserved something of the sharpness of expression, which was so remarkable in that of his brother.
I am glad to meet you, sir. I hear of Sherlock everywhere since you became his chronicler. By the way, Sherlock, I expected to see you round last week to consult me over that Manor House case.
No, I solved it.
It was Adams, of course.
Yes, it was Adams.
I was sure of it from the first. To anyone who wishes to study mankind, this is the spot. Look at the magnificent types! Look at these 2 men who are coming towards us, for example.
An old soldier, I perceive.
And very recently discharged.
Served in India, I see.
And a non-commissioned officer.
Royal Artillery, I fancy.
And a widower.
But with a child.
Children, my dear boy, children.
Come,
said I, laughing.
This is a little too much.
Surely, it is not hard to say that a man with that bearing, expression of authority, and sun-baked skin is a soldier.
He had not the cavalry stride, yet he wore his hat on one side, as is shown by the lighter skin of that side of his brow. He is in the artillery. By the way, Sherlock, I have had something quite after your own heart, a most singular problem, submitted to my judgment, if you would care to hear the facts.
A few minutes later we were joined by a short, stout man whose olive face and coal-black hair proclaimed his southern origin, though his speech was that of an educated Englishman.
I do not believe that the police credit me. On my word, I do not. Just because they have never heard of it before, they think that such a thing cannot be. I was not surprised, therefore, on Monday night when a Mr. Latimer, a very fashionably dressed young man, came up to my rooms and asked me to accompany him in a cab. He began by drawing a most formidable-looking bludgeon loaded with lead from his pocket, and switching it backward and forward several times. Having done this, he drew up the windows on each side, and I found to my astonishment that they were covered with paper so as to prevent my seeing through them.
I am sorry to cut off your view, Mr. Melas. The fact is that I have no intention that you should see what the place is to which we are driving.
For nearly 2 hours we drove without my having the least clue as to where we were going. It was 7:15 when we left Pall Mall, and my watch showed me that it was 10 minutes to 9 when we at last came to a standstill. In the dim light I could make out that the person who had opened the door was a small, mean-looking, middle-aged man with rounded shoulders. As he turned towards us, the glint of the light showed me that he was wearing glasses.
Well done, well done. No ill will, Mr. Melas, I hope, but we could not get on without you. If you deal fair with us, you'll not regret it, but if you try any tricks, God help you!
He was deadly pale and terribly emaciated, but what shocked me more than any signs of physical weakness was that his face was grotesquely crossed with sticking plaster, and that one large pad of it was fastened over his mouth.
You are to ask the questions, Mr. Melas, and he will write the answers. Ask him first of all whether he is prepared to sign the papers.
Never.
He wrote in Greek upon the slate.
You can do no good by this obstinacy. Who are you?
I care not. I am a stranger in London.
Your fate will be upon your own head. How long have you been here?
Let it be so. 3 weeks.
At that instant the door opened and a woman stepped into the room. She was tall and graceful, with black hair.
Harold, I could not stay away longer. Oh my God, it is Paul.
These last words were in Greek, and at the same instant the man with a convulsive effort tore the plaster from his lips, and screaming out, Sophie, rushed into the woman's arms.
There are 5 sovereigns here, which will, I hope, be a sufficient fee. But remember, if you speak to a human soul about this, well, may God have mercy upon your soul!
I was on some sort of a heathy common mottled over with dark clumps of furze bushes. On the other side I saw the red signal lamps of a railway.
Wandsworth Common.
Any steps?
Anybody supplying any information to the whereabouts of a Greek gentleman named Paul Cratides will be rewarded. No answer.
Certainly. I'll let you know, and Mr. Melas also. In the meantime, Mr. Melas, I should certainly be on my guard, if I were you, for of course they must know through these advertisements that you have betrayed them.
I had an answer to my advertisement.
Mycroft Holmes took out a sheet of paper.
Sir, I know the young lady in question very well. She is living at present at the Myrtles, Beckenham. Yours faithfully, J. Davenport.
My dear Mycroft, the brother's life is more valuable than the sister's story. I think we should call at Scotland Yard for Inspector Gregson, and go straight out to Beckenham.
It was almost dark before we found ourselves in Pall Mall, at the rooms of Mr. Melas. A gentleman had just called for him, and he was gone.
He was a little gentleman, with glasses, thin in the face, but very pleasant in his ways, for he was laughing all the time that he was talking.
This grows serious. These men have got hold of Melas again. No doubt they want his professional services, but, having used him, they may be inclined to punish him for what they will regard as his treachery.
A drive of half a mile brought us to the Myrtles, a large, dark house standing back from the road in its own grounds.
The windows are all dark. The house seems deserted. A carriage heavily loaded with luggage has passed out during the last hour.
I saw the wheel tracks in the light of the gate lamp. But where does the luggage come in?
The outward bound ones were very much deeper.
Holmes had slipped away, but he came back in a few minutes.
I have a window open.
It is a mercy that you are on the side of the force, and not against it, Mr. Holmes.
A low moaning sound was coming from somewhere over our heads. Holmes rushed to the door and out into the hall. The dismal noise came from upstairs. Peering in, we could see that the only light in the room came from a dull blue flame which flickered from a small brass tripod in the center. From the open door there reeked a horrible poisonous exhalation.
It's charcoal?
He cried.
Give it time. It will clear.
Dashing into the room, he threw up the window and hurled the brazen tripod out into the garden. With a rush we got to the poisoned men and dragged them out into the well-lit hall. Both of them were blue-lipped and insensible, with swollen, congested faces and protruding eyes. Mr. Melas, however, still lived, and in less than an hour, with the aid of ammonia and brandy, I had the satisfaction of seeing him open his eyes. A glance showed me that for him at least our aid had come too late. And this was the singular case of the Grecian interpreter, the explanation of which is still involved in some mystery. The two villains with the girl had fled away, having first, as they thought, taken vengeance both upon the man who had defied and the one who had betrayed them. Months afterwards, a curious newspaper cutting reached us from Budapest. It told how two Englishmen who had been traveling with a woman had met with a tragic end. They had each been stabbed. Holmes, however, is, I fancy, of a different way of thinking, and holds to this day that, if one could find the Grecian girl, one might learn how the wrongs of herself and her brother came to be avenged.